Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the MI podcast. As you all know, this MI podcast we cover various kind of topics in marketing and media. I am basically digital marketing professional. I am more into as a digital marketing strategist. I make strategies for different companies. I make complete from scratch from the starting till the execution. So if you all want any of my services, please reach out to me. My Linktree link is given in this description of the video where you have my coordinates where you can reach out to me. These episodes basically I'm making to educate also the audience on different things within marketing and all. We get into more details. Marketing, I would say, as a domain is everybody is in touch with it. Like you, when you're consuming content, that content is somewhere the other designed by a marketer, where it is from their starting thought process that what would connect to my TG, and then accordingly how do I create that content and put it out there so that that increases the reach and engagement of my brand. So coming to today's topic, it's about B2B and B2C marketing. So personally, I've mostly done B2B marketing, right? Like where I've worked, in full-time jobs and all, where you are targeting another business. B2B, what is B2B marketing? B2B marketing is basically when a business is targeting another business. So the end, you're not making a product or service which is to an end consumer. End consumers, if you're making a product or service for, and then you're marketing the same, is B2C. So this is a very important way to kind of differentiate where the volume generally in B2C is more, but I would say the quality is on B2B would be more, I would say, from my end, because when there is a less amount of quantity of messaging happening, the quality has to increase more because you have very few decision makers, and those are going to decide mostly on logic. And B2C is more on impulse and emotion, depending on when there are small products there. For large products, obviously there'll be a lot of logic also, but generally in B2C is based on the emotion and the impulse. So that is a very important thing to consider. Now let us go firstly with the similarities. So if anybody is a marketer in general, you will have to have these skills, like in general, where whether you're in B2B or B2C, it would apply to both. So the first similarity is the final aim, which is of marketing, is to generate sales, right? We have to generate as marketers continuous demand for our products and services, and then that demand that is generated then through directly also, like today in the digital age, you can just go on your website or social media directly selling things, or then the sales people go and try to complete the deal. Like when you create the value, you have to deliver the value. So it would be then to generate the sales. But that is the final aim. Whether you are in the B2B or B2C, it has to facilitate the KPI. One of the main is the sale that is generated. Like you can't be a marketer and say that I've generated a lot of leads, but those are really not that qualified to convert, and none of them they convert. Then the blame would come on the marketer, is where whether these leads are in qualified in the first place. Are we getting the attention from the audience that we actually want? So that's a very important thing. That is why final aim is sales in both, and they'll be judged on both if you are able to finally the product or service is selling or not. Then some next similarity would be the understanding of a TG, which every marketer has to take in efforts to understand the audience, create customer personas, do customer research, do um, you know create kind of focus groups, create kind of places where there is an understanding and of the audience, like through interviews or something, and then you kind of get a more this thing, because the more understanding you have, you will be then in a better place. And some things I've even observed as a marketer, when you increase your understanding of your audience, you keep probing, asking questions, doing research and all, somewhere or the other ideas then automatically come in your head, because then you start thinking like that person, because you consume with it, right? Like you are continuously getting to know more about your particular TG, so then you'll think about your TG also, how they will think, and then you will that will increase the success of whatever campaigns you're making to then hit home with the TG. Next is a very common thing of the content creation. Like you have to create amazing content for your TG, whether it is B2B or B2C. Um, it was actually, there was also concern that B2C, the content creation, there is higher value because it's continuous. Like you are making, a lot of content on say, social media. Then there are a lot of advertisements on different platforms and all. But um, with the ease of creating content and digitalization in general, like continuous creating content and then distributing via emails or WhatsApp campaigns, or direct kind of, where you are meeting a consumer in the events, or a seminar or whatever. This all content has to be continuously created. So being a marketer today with a B2B or B2C, you have to have a good understanding of content and how it arouses an interest in the particular TG and allows them to engage with you basically and your brand. Then you have your branding, which is so important for any kind of marketing. Some would argue that in B2B, like what is the kind of brand? Like it's mostly very direct kind of marketing, and then you're stating the your features and the USPs of your product or service. But there are quite a few activities, because why the branding aspect is there, because end of the day it is a human being who is going to make the decision, right? So if the brand is continuously there, it is in your face in terms of it's creating continuously content, it is in the newspapers or in online sites or advertisements, it is creating that brand element. That's why we have seen even in mainstream events and sports events and all, you have a lot of B2B companies also coming in, because that is creating that branding, and branding creates a familiarity and a credibility for you, and that then delivers, because when you work on your brand, then after a point sales become automatic. Like that decision making of the consumer of selecting you subconsciously, only having that trust in you, would automatically, I mean, and who would know, which business would not want that? Then we would have uh, any kind of marketer, the buying process, he should be aware of that what is the whole, in terms of when they say have that need, and how they were able to um, get to your product, discover your product, and then inquire a little bit about it, take that decision about it, and then purchase it. The whole buying process and the customer journey that you have to have, this is one of the main jobs of, like, after I would say understanding the TG, then that who they are, and then it is how they have the buying journey with respect to your product or service. So these things are kind of basic. Like I would say every marketer should have it, and has to have certain activities to continuously increase their knowledge about it, and also do things about it in the market, so that it enables them for the product and service to be kind of sold in the market. Awesome. So next we would look at the differences or the dissimilarities between B2B and B2C, and where a little bit skill set level also can differ between a B2B and a B2C marketer. First, your target audience, you need to understand, and target audience generally in overall would be like an account, kind of like a company is buying your product in a B2B case generally, and in B2C is one consumer. It's a consumer generally the individual decision that that person takes. So target audience mostly is a collective. There are a lot of decision makers involved to create that decision, because there is a it's it's affecting a lot of people once that sale happens, and there is a direct kind of correlation to buying the product or service and the success that you achieve on the function whichever you are working on. So say what I mean by that is, say you are purchasing sales CRM or something, right? So the success of how that sales CRM work would affect the entire company. So it's very careful decision, and which I'll come to the next point about the sales cycle, which you'll get an idea that how long is it, and then what all, how many decision makers. So coming to the B2C thing, so B2C may just one person, like if he's buying, like I can take a small product like a chocolate also, it's like just more or less like a impulsive sale. So your audience is kind of different, the kind of content that would appeal with them, and that decision making process is very small in terms of the sales cycle also. So this is where it would be different, where in terms of that comparison, if you do it like more, I would say honestly a creative level would be more in a B2C, where it's more artistry and kind of just wow the consumer. Here it's more a case of proper points and logic and continuous hammering of your USPs, so that you kind of can hit home and then get that product or service sold. Then the difference is the sales cycle. So sales cycle in B2B is a long thing. Like I give you example of that sales CRM, some service is being sold. So it could be like in those cases like 6 months, and on any SaaS product marketer will tell you it's a very long sales cycle. And because once the sale is made, there is a huge sum that is being being paid on a continuous basis and all, right? It's like a very important business service that is being provided. So very long sales cycle would be there. B2C, it's a very short. Even if a person is buying a car from the start to end, once he's made a mind and they have the resources, I won't say more than a month or 2 months, then a decision is made, right? So you do your research and all that, but it's very small. And for the other lesser value in terms of the products, it is even lesser, right? A person, if he's buying a particular a chewing gum or something like a small FMCG thing, so he would hardly make that decision in 2 minutes. So, wherever is nearby, if he wants to purchase something, like today you have that online shopping of even groceries. So it's like a 2 minute decision, and then that product you basically bought it and you're consuming it. Then you have the purchase decision. The purchase decision, all these actually points are tying into each other, but they have to be different, because you can't have the same thing. There has to be differentiation in terms of understanding and approach as well. So the purchase decision that is involved in B2B and B2C is different. B2B is generally a collective decision, and in B2C is generally an individual decision, right? There will be overlaps in, like maybe in a B2B, where say I'm purchasing a Canva account and I'm using it for my own, say, freelancing or something. So that's an individual decision. And if a person is then buying television in a house, then he will ask all his family members about it, right? So it's a collective little bit on that. So there'll be interlapping, but generally you would follow the thing that in B2B is more a collective thing, where there are a lot of barriers, and then in B2C it is more an individual decision. Then you have your messaging and tone. So messaging generally in B2B, it's quite formal in that. When you see websites or marketing collaterals in B2B, it is more, cut to cut. That designs have kind of become better, but I won't say any quirkiness is there in that. Compared to in B2C, there is a lot of, I think, many brands which are like selling to very young consumers, that is a completely quirky, right? So very fun kind of light, that tone is there, right? Because people are purchasing that for enjoyment, also so many things within B2C. So that messaging and tone is generally, so you have to be a little bit loose and kind of in the thing and understand what they really want, because there are so many entertainment and products where it's just to give pleasure at that time, and so that kind of thinking has to be there in as a B2C marketer at that time. And lastly, the channels and tactics would kind of differ, because in B2B, you have a kind of set audience. Like most of the time, it's going to be like a certain. So I have maybe these 1,000 people that have got a data and have to sell to them only. So the channel would be somewhere that those people would consume. So it's very specific. Like they would come to XYZ event, they would come to XYZ seminar or something like that. So or they would be participating in a particular webinar or something. This would only interest them. So very specific channel would be there. And if I've got the data, like say I'm doing email marketing campaign, or LinkedIn, where I am doing a reach out campaign or LinkedIn advertising or something. So very specific few channels also may you can achieve a good amount of success within B2B. In B2C comparison, it is more reaching out, large and more spray and pray kind of thing, honestly, because like you don't know where who will purchase. The if I send out an advertisement and it's going to reach 100 people, I don't think I'm going to get any sale in a B2C context, because who will make that decision is very kind of a very small percentage would come into that, who would actually be interested in the product at that time. So it's more marketing wherein you are, I would say a pull based kind of thing. In B2B, still is more push based, where you are putting it in that seminar or something where your advertisement, where the person sees, and here they should kind of feel pull towards your brand through your content or advertisement and all, and you're reaching at a mass scale, right? And that person then has an interest, okay, gets an understanding of your brand, has a liking to it, and then maybe goes ahead and tries your product or service and all that. So these things, I think, they vary in B2B, B2C, and channels are much more. They have to be. I've worked in B2C, like you have to have many, much more channels, because every channel, the conversion rate is much lower for obvious reasons. Like like there is a, because the market may you have to find your customer somewhere, someone has to connect with you. So mass scale, and generally that is in B2C. It is where person kind of discovers your brand and all once you are doing continuously B2C marketing and putting your brand in out there. Awesome. So this was a good episode on B2B B2C marketing. I think there are quite a few, even I would say similarities even more, where the lines also are blurring. What is B2B, what is B2C? Because you have today's SaaS product, like say a user-based product, like what would you call, say, a design software, right? It can be used individually, it can be used in a big corporation. You can use so many tech products, like you have a work management system. I can use it individually, I can use it as a huge business, and then actually companies have packages accordingly. And as a business also, like say you are purchasing a lot of products, like for your business consumption or something, right? Like if a person for his business is buying, some IT company is buying 10 laptops, and individually if a person even can buy 2 or 3 laptops for his family, right? So how do you market to them? How does it? So this all things, the lines are a little bit blurring in that. in terms of that. That's why uh, it's more on the scale of business that is handled, as well as the success achieved, as well as the marketer's conviction towards, I think, when you are deciding to go ahead with a marketer, how they're structurally they are thinking, how is they addressing different channels and justifying in terms of what kind of messaging is created for each channel for that, and how detailed is their work. That's what would kind of define, in terms of the skill. So a person can go from B2B to B2C and B2C to B2B. It is happening all the time, and it is a reality, and companies have to accept it and test the candidate accordingly. As per, they just can't be, though you have a lot of experience in B2B, you can't work in B2C, or you have experience only in B2C, you can't B2B. It's goes well beyond that. There's a lot of commonalities and lines of blurring, as I mentioned, in terms of marketing in general. Awesome. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. Until the next episode, I'll see you. Take care.